Hello, and welcome to video number 1 for ILE 125, English for Global Exploration. So today what we're going to talk about is Cinco de Mayo. And most people know Cinco de Mayo. It's a Mexican holiday. So it's popular in America. It's popular in Mexico, and especially in America. So in North America, it's very well known. So today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the history of Cinco de Mayo. Then we're going to talk about how it's celebrated today. Okay, so May 5th. So it's held on May 5th. So as you can see, cinco. So uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco. So cinco means 5. Okay, and Mayo, May. So it's means basically the 5th of May. Alright, but many people, they misunderstand the history of Cinco de Mayo. Some people think, or some people believe, it's the Mexican Independence Day. However, that is incorrect. Okay, Mexico got its independence from Spain in 1810. But what Cinco de Mayo commemorates, it's something that happened in the year 1862. Okay? Alright, so and it involves Spain, the UK, and France. Okay, so basically what happened was, at that time, Mexico recently got its independence from Spain. It had to borrow money from other countries, which is commonplace for newly formed governments. But they were having a little difficulty in paying back the money. So basically what happened was Mexico was saying, hey, can you hold off maybe a couple years? But Spain, the UK, and France, they didn't want to wait. They wanted their money. So what they did was, these three countries, they formed an alliance so they could put some pressure on Mexico to start paying the money back. But then what happened was, the UK and Spain, they realized that France, they wanted more than just get the money back. They really wanted to basically have some sort of colonizing force in Mexico. So then that agreement, Spain and the UK, they withdrew from the agreement. And France, what they decided to do was, okay, if you're not going to pay us our money back, then we're going to invade you. So then what happened was that they had a plan, France, when they were going to attack Mexico, they were going to attack a town called Puebla. And so what they did was that they figured, okay, this is Mexico, so we can come in there, we'll come in there on one afternoon, invade the country, and be done with it. So what they did was they had forces surround the city of Puebla, but then they realized that Mexico was going to be a lot harder to defeat than they had originally thought. So in the end, what happened was around 500 French soldiers died. But then on the Mexican side, basically under 100 Mexican soldiers died, and then the Mexican soldiers were able to deter France. And so basically, the French bid to invade Mexico was thwarted. So basically, the French soldiers went back to France, and then they realized, hey, we're France, this can't happen. So then came round 2. And so in total, about 28,000 soldiers were involved in this battle in Puebla. And of course, the majority of the soldiers were on the French side. And in the end, the Mexican soldiers fought as long as they could, but in the end they withdrew. And then the French soldiers eventually took over Puebla, and then the invading forces eventually took over Mexico City as well, which is the capital of Mexico. And so then they they formed a new government in Mexico, but then President Juarez, who was the president of Mexico at that time, he had to flee, and so he fled to northern Mexico. and it's on the board. It's on the U.S. Mexican border, and so basically he had to he fled to that area, and actually that region now it's actually called Juarez, named after him. But of course now it's more famous in the news for the Mexican drug cartel, where they've kind of taken over parts of Juarez. But that's a different story. We're going to talk about Cinco de Mayo here. So originally, when the French forces first started to invade Mexico, America wasn't able to help their neighbors because in America they were dealing with their own civil war, where America almost became two separate countries in essence. But then after the Civil War ended, and then at the time the second round of after the second round of invasion by the French forces, and after the French forces basically pretty much occupied Mexico, then America was able to get involved in the situation, and then fearing this, the French, they didn't want to have any sort of conflict, or basically they didn't want to go to war with both Mexico and America. So the French forces fled Mexico, and then President Benito Juarez, he returned back to the capital of Mexico, Mexico City, and then he designated Cinco de Mayo. It's the anniversary of the Battle of not Puebla. Slight little typo there. And then so basically what this holiday is, it's very famous in America and also in Mexico. So yeah, it's actually surprising that for some people it's actually more famous in America than it is in Mexico. And in actuality, the world's largest Cinco de Mayo celebration is in California. So, and some people may think, why is that? Why is Cinco de Mayo more popular, or basically really popular in California? Why is the world's largest Cinco de Mayo celebration in California? Well, pretty much California, the name it used to have was Mexico. But again, that's a different story. So, all over the United States, there's a large population of either Mexican immigrants or people with Mexican heritage. And so basically Mexican people, they're very proud people, and they're very proud of their history, and so Cinco de Mayo is very, very famous. But again, even most Americans, they don't know the history behind Cinco de Mayo. They just know it, hey, this is a great party, let's have fun. All right, so, and you look here, basically you have tons of people celebrating it, and in many, many different cities in America have their own Cinco de Mayo celebration. So you have here, the top left-hand corner, you have basically a parade where people dressing up in traditional Mexican clothing, and then you see the big picture here, you see all the food stalls. That's what I love the most about Cinco de Mayo, is all the awesome Mexican food. I love Mexican food. And you look here, in the top left-hand corner, you have very famous food, guacamole. I love guacamole. And also you have basically tortilla bowls. What many people don't realize is that you can actually make a bowl out of tortillas. You buy this special bowl, and then you put a tortilla in it, and then you bake it for 5 minutes, and actually you can have like your own salad bowl or nacho bowl. Very delicious. Then you have at the bottom, you have quesadillas. I love quesadillas, using tortillas, and you put some vegetables and meat inside, and you top it with guacamole and sour cream. Very, very delicious. Then over on the right hand side, fish tacos. Now I'm not really sure the origin of fish tacos because they're relatively new compared to other Mexican food, but very, very. This is probably my favorite Mexican food are fish tacos. So, speaking of Mexican food, que pasa? This is a Mexican restaurant here in Thailand. So it's located in Nonthaburi. It's kind of in a area. It's not on the main street, but it's very delicious, and it's probably the most Mexican food, the most authentic Mexican food in Thailand. And before I found this place, I had to cook the food myself if I wanted Mexican food, but it's actually very delicious. So not only they serve Mexican food, but also Thai food as well. But yeah, it's very delicious. It's not cheap, but it's very delicious. So if you're looking for true, authentic Mexican food, I recommend Que Pasa. Okay, and I was saying, for me, it's the best Mexican restaurant in Thailand. All right, so that about does it for video number 1. And if you have any questions, please post your comments, or you can email me directly. And I'll see you in the next video.